Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Lesser Known But Awesome Heroes. And today, I decided that I was going to pick another DC character, and one that people have actually accused of being a knockoff, and that is the character of the Guardian. However, there have been many various versions of the Guardian. However, I'm first going to talk about the later Guardian, or rather, I'm going to talk about the character of Jake Jordan, also known as the Manhattan Guardian. So let's get underway, shall we? Now, Jake Jordan was created by Grant Morrison, and he debuted in the Manhattan Guardian issue 1 in May of 2005. He was one of Morrison's characters that he picked for his new Seven Soldiers of Victory lineup. And Jordan was a character that Morrison actually drew inspiration from the British newspaper The Guardian, in which he wanted to make a tabloid-sponsored superhero. And Jake is based in Cinderella City, which is basically the pretty girl sister city of Metropolis and Gotham. It's basically New York, but with unrealized architectural projects actually made into a reality, one of them being the Hotel Attraction, which was supposedly a memorial, which was originally going to be the memorial building for Ground Zero, or at least allegedly, and also a concept for the Rolls-Royce building, which is right near the Chase Manhattan Bank building, or the Mid-Manhattan Express and the Ellis Island Key, and various other ideas. And Morrison basically explanated, I wanted it to be a more exalted New York where things that were dreamed up were finally brought into reality. And he would also make cameos in Infinite Crisis and the book 52. And also, now, here we go. Now, also, the thing about Jake Jordan is that he's also, his team affiliations have been the Seven Soldiers of Victory and the Newsboy Army. Also, it's worth noting that due to his former police officer training, he is in excellent physical condition and has superb hand-to-hand combat and fighting skills, as well as pretty decent detective work. Now, to get into his origins, Jake Jordan was an unemployed and disgraced former police officer who left the force after accidentally killing a young boy he had misidentified as the murderer of his partner. It's believed his partner was actually his fiance's father, Larry. Jake then applied for a mysterious job at the Manhattan Guardian tabloid newspaper after facing several trials disguised as a terrorist attack, including fighting a golem. Jordan was confronted by the paper's owner, Ed Stargard, and impressed with his conduct, he offered Jake the job to be the newspaper's very own superhero/reporter. During his meeting with Jake, Ed notes that he had bought the rights to the Guardian name from Project Cadmus, who had sponsored the original. Shortly afterward, Jake's fiancée Carla was kidnapped by subway pirates, and her rescue becomes his very first mission. The pirates also killed Larry, and shortly after her rescue, Carla breaks up with Jake. Later, the Guardian faces down killer robots modeled after the world's ethnic groups. Fed up with how his new job has changed his life, he storms into Ed's office intent on quitting, only to find out that Ed is an elderly man who never physically developed beyond babyhood. Ed explains that he used to be a member of a group called the Newsboy Army, known as Baby Brain. The group had a deadly and maddening encounter with the evil fairy folk, the Sheeta, who are now storming the Guardian building, intent on finishing the former newsboy off. Not content to leave Ed to die, Jordan Jordan, the baby brain, and his secretary set off to find Carla and fight the Sheeta. In the end, the Sheeta are defeated, and Jake and Carla are tearfully reunited, making up in the process, shown in the headline proclaiming, "Hero gets girl." Now, in Infinite Crisis, following the Seven Soldiers of Victory story arc, Jake would actually be seen valiantly fighting Doomsday in the Villains United Infinite Crisis special. He is also seen in the related 7-part limited series Infinite in the actual limited 7-part series Infinite Crisis. He, along with many other superheroes attending a mass for fallen and missing heroes, he is one of the hundreds of defenders in the Battle for Metropolis, protecting the city from the climactic attack of the members of the Secret Society of Supervillains. Jake's association with the heroes would not end there, however, as he is seen attending the funeral service for Superboy, Connor Kent. Despite having only been the Manhattan Guardian for a short time prior to the young hero's death, in week 50 of the 52 Maxi series, Jake is one of the dozens of heroes called upon to the border of China to battle the maddened, rampaging Black Adam. This fight is also detailed in a tie-in series. Superman writer James Robinson expresses a desire to have Jake team up with the original Guardian at some point in the near future. After Eclipso destroys the moon during a battle with the Justice League, Jake is seen helping evacuate citizens from the streets of Manhattan as the city descends into chaos. And also, in Earth 23, the Manhattan Guardian is a member of the League. And that's about it for Jake. Let's move on to Jim Harper now, shall we? Pull up the other page here. There we go. Now, here we go with James, Jacob, or Jim Harper. These are the various names, as the original Guardian, Jim Harper, has been cloned multiple times by Project Cadmus. However, interestingly, a lot of people say that Jim Harper's, Guardian, which is the original, is a knockoff of Captain America, and to those of you who say that, especially watching the show Young Justice, you're not far off. Because actually, in Star Spangled Comics issue 7 in April of 1942, whereas in March of 1941 at Marvel Comics, Jack Kirby and Joe Simon created Captain America. This same creative team of the King of Comics and Simon actually created the Guardian for DC. Yeah, shocking. So basically, Jim Harper is Steve Rogers just with blue and gold. Got an indestructible shield, has no real superhuman abilities, just peak human conditioning. And interestingly enough, Jim Harper's Guardian is actually, he was part of the Science Police, Project Cadmus, the All-Star Squadron, the Newsboy Legion, and the Justice League. Excuse me. It's also worth noting, really quickly, because it's only like a one and done kind of deal, that also Mal Duncan from the Teen Titans books was actually the Guardian, but he was only the Guardian temporarily because in Teen Titans issue 44 in November of 1976, Duncan took the name of the Guardian and wore the original's outfit and exoskeleton with strength augmenting abilities. He also would actually save a Harper clone in Superman Families issue 191 to 193 in September of 78 to February of 79. And saved him from Adam, who was an evil clone created using genetic material from both Harper and Doublix. Yeah, Doublix. That's just how or Double Helix. I'll just say Doublix because that's the way it kind of looks and spells in my mind. Who had taken control of the DNA project. In Crisis on Infinite Earths, however, it removed the fact that Mal had been the Guardian. And although he did appear, however, during the crisis itself in his Guardian outfit. And then, let's see. Hmm. Ah, I was trying to look for the reference point for the powers. Now, Harper, as the Guardian, the original, actually possessed exceptional combat and tactical skills. He was trained in many forms of combat and excelled at gymnastics, and he thought quickly on his feet and deduction, and had brilliant deduction skills. His only weapons was his golden helmet and his shield. He often used a customized motorcycle equipped with autopilot and a set of video cameras filming from various angles and recorded on video discs. His clone, however, or multiple clones, depending on which story you read, possessed enhanced strength, reflexes, and accelerating healing factor. As an agent of Cadmus, Jim Harper also had access to the Whiz Wagon. The Harrys, a super advanced tribe of techno wizards, originally genetic creations of Donovan, who had Dewey Donovan or Dorothy Donovan. I always get his name mixed up for some reason. Who had left Cadmus at this time, built the Whiz Wagon to handle any situation. It can adapt to any terrain, it can fly, and can even go underwater. And it's also remote controlled or pre-programmed, and is equipped with a set of powerful weapons and various gadgets. Now, let's get underway, shall we, with the origins of the original Guardian? Okay, Jim Harper was a police officer in Metropolis's suicide slums who had become a vigilante to catch crooks that the law could not prosecute, describing himself as guarding society from criminals. He was trained to fighting condition by ex-boxer Joe Morgan, the same man who had trained two of the other mystery men of the Golden Age era, Al Pratt, the first Adam, and Ted Grant, aka Wildcat. He was aided by a group of boys who were called the Newsboy Legion, to whom he was literally a guardian, having volunteered to take them in rather than allowing them to be sent to prison or a juvenile delinquent facility. He did so on the grounds that they were basically good kids who just needed a chance and to focus their energies properly. The boys in the Newsboy Legion would eventually grow up to actually be the heads of Project Cadmus, and subsequently saved Harper's life by transferring his brain from his old dying body into a younger clone of himself. It is later revealed that Jim Harper was actually the great uncle of Roy Harper, aka Speedy, Arsenal, or Red Arrow, depending on which name you want to use. And also other relatives included his niece Roberta, famous Bobby Harper, who was briefly a member of the second Newsboy Legion, and Jamie Harper, an African-American grandniece working for the Gotham City Police Department. She worked as Robin's personal contact in the GCPD, similar to the role of Jim Gordon for Batman. After helping Robin and Jason Bard, B-A-R-D, exposed two dirty cops in the GCPD, Jamie Harper was promoted to detective specialist and has since been transferred to the Metropolis Science Police. In Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen issue 135 in January of 1971, Jack Kirby reintroduced the boys of the now grown-up Newsboy Legion as supporting characters connected to the DNA Project, later Project Cadmus, a genetics research laboratory. One of the project's experiments was a clone of the late Jim Harper, who took up his predecessor's role and became the project's head of security as the Golden Guardian. Post-crisis, this character was simply known as the Guardian. Harper remained Cadmus's head of security even after the former Newsboys had left. Eventually, he too was killed, though another clone was created and rapidly aged to adulthood, retaining all of its predecessor's memories. This Guardian disappeared along with the rest of Cadmus following the altercation with Amanda Waller and President Luthor, and his whereabouts up until this up until this point are still unknown. And in the post-Infinite Crisis, the Guardian clone's backstory was retconned. As Doublix explained to Jimmy Olsen, Jim Harper was never killed in the line of duty, but was shot by Cadmus's first head of security, Jonathan Drew. Upon discovering the clone had already been created. It was also revealed that the original Guardian clone had left Cadmus early on and was now living in the town of Warpath on the Mexican border, where he assisted Sheriff Greg Sunders, aka the First Vigilante, and subsequent appearances of the Guardian had been new clones, each of which had died within one whole year. It is also stated that the original Guardian clone has decided to move to Metropolis with Gwen, his adopted daughter. In fact, an adolescent female clone of himself that he had rescued during the New Krypton storyline. Science Police team members Dewberry and Daniels, along with many other prison guards, were killed during the events of New Krypton when a team of Kandorians led by Commander Gore assaulted Stryker's Island with demanded custody of Parasite. The Science Police control Rachel tasked Guardian to act as a liaison between the Metropolis PD and a coalition of superheroes to bring justice for the fallen science officers and prison guards. After the Kandorians left Earth, Guardian was appointed field commander of the Science Police as replacement for Dewberry and Daniels, due in part to his cloned memories of Jim Harper as a police officer and Guardian as a superhero. He was asked by Superman to help Mon-El, aka Valor of the Legion of Superheroes, in offering him a job with the Science Police and mentoring him on how to be a hero. In recent issues of Detective Comics published during the 1 year later event, reveals that Harper had a grandniece, Jamie, formerly a detective in the GCPD and a former associate of Tim Drake, the third Robin. The Guardian later travels to the JLA Watchtower to warn the Justice League after finding a teleportation device in Metropolis. While on the Watchtower, the heroes are attacked by Prometheus, who blinds the Guardian. In the aftermath of the attack, Guardian and Mon-El are recruited by Kimayo Hoshi. Kimayo Hoshi. To join the Justice League. On his first and only mission with the team, the Guardian battles Dr. Impossible's gang of villains. After a mere 3 issues, the Guardian was written out of the book due to writer Jim Robinson's desire to work with a smaller cast. Following the events of War of the Supermen, Harper abandons his role as Guardian and takes Jamie, now pregnant with Mon-El's child, off to an unknown destination. And this, guys, is actually where the biography, as far as I can tell, ends for the Guardian. So all in all, guys, really, the Guardian is pretty much DC's Captain America, both literally and figuratively. But what makes Jim Harper very interesting to me as a character is the fact that despite the majority of the Guardians actually being his clones and Jake Jordan, the Manhattan Guardian, being a separate character, I like, legacy characters, as do a lot of my fellow YouTubers, and as I'm sure most of you comic fans out there enjoy as well, but I find it interesting that the dynasty of the Guardian, it's basically the Guardian's entire legacy, is the same person, but it's just genetic clones. I find that really interesting, yet really humorous at the same time. But that's just a matter of personal opinion, guys. I hope you guys actually enjoyed this. I know it's been at least probably like a week or 2, maybe more, since I posted a video, but I've been busy with helping Tony with Meridian Park, and I'm about to actually, since school is starting, at this time and date that this video is being published, that I'm going to be working on my public speaking stuff. So my my part-time YouTube deal is still in effect, guys, but I figured since I hadn't done a lesser known, at least in what I felt was 2 weeks or more, that this would be a fun little video for you guys. And with that, getting ever closer to the end of batch 2 for lesser known. So as I always like to say, guys, and it's my signature catchphrase, and those who are fans, you get it. For those of you who are new and this is your first video, as I always like to say at the end of these videos, stay tuned for the next one.